This one is very much focusing on consulting-based businesses, but it applies to anything really, service-based, product-based. The information is relatively similar throughout. And the information that I've kind of gathered from today's session, I say this in pretty much every presentation, purely because we speak to that many people. And the reasons that I'm going to be sharing with you today, if you've been to multiple workshops before, especially this year, these reasons haven't changed. These are the same reasons that I've spoken about for the last few weeks. But over the last 4 years, I've had a lot of different conversations with consultants and service-based businesses. And with this session today, I'm going to be sharing with you content on all 5 of them. But what I want you to think about, whether you are completely new and this is your first session with me, or this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th time that you've come, I want you to have a think about where you're currently at this current point in time when it comes to your social media activity, whether that's on LinkedIn or any other platform. LinkedIn is the primary focus today, but I'm conscious that there are people that want to know more about other platforms, which I will touch on as well. But I want you to think about which of these points probably most resonates and relates to your current position, whether you are a founder, a consultant, a CEO, whether you are someone who's working in marketing or sales for a business at this current point in time. Now, when it comes to social media, there are some key reasons, right, that people are struggling. And the first one is simply down to not being able to get your target market responding to you. So number one is you may be on a platform like LinkedIn. You may be able to search for them online and find them, but you can't get them to engage with you. You can't get them on a call with you. You can't get them to show any interest in what it is that you're doing. Example, when I talk about social media, I talk about social media bias. As somebody that talks about social media, there is social media bias. So whenever I'm on a platform like LinkedIn and I'm offering LinkedIn help, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, the person's going to be interested in because it's LinkedIn and they're on LinkedIn. Whereas if you are out of interest, what do you currently do? What is your business? What do you consult on? What do you sell? Just pop it in the chat box for me. Give me the first thing that comes up. I'll use it as an example. So some of you might be in recruitment. Some of you might be in leadership. Some of you might be in ISO standards and recruitment. We've got engineering recruitment, right? So engineering recruitment, prime example. Your target market, Dan, most likely aren't on LinkedIn to find out more about engineering recruitment. And so when you go out there and try to reach out to these people, they're pretty much not interested in going to ignore you. Anyone else relate to that? Give me a yes in the chat if you relate to that. You're trying to get in contact with people, but they're not on the platform, right? They're not on the platform for the reasons that you think they are, and therefore they're ignoring you. That is number one. People don't know how to get their ideal target market responding. Number two is that they are posting content. So content is a popular topic right now, and they've heard about this miraculous thing called an inbound lead, and they may get 1 or 2 of them every now and again. However, spending loads of time on content, putting out there maybe a post a day, maybe a few a week, maybe a video here or there, but they're not getting the engagement and they're not getting the responses, aka inbound leads that they were hoping they would get. And therefore, struggling to see where the real benefit of social media is. Number two. Number three is purely down to audience size. So you may have 100 followers, 500, 1,000, but they're not the right type of people. And therefore, you believe that if you could just get more people knowing what it is that you do, and if they were the right target market, you'd see your business grow and you'd see better results. Number three is audience size. Number four is the one which, if you've been to multiple of my workshops before, you'll know I talk about it a lot. And that is that predictable and sustainable process. So you don't have a customer journey right now from a marketing and sales point of view. And so the stuff that you're doing is kind of done with a scattergun approach. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, see what happens. Number four is you lack a predictable and sustainable process for conversion. And then number five is that the social media strategy that you're currently applying and putting into place is based on the hope of someone reaching out to you rather than being very, very proactive and having a connected approach that means that people will reach out to you. So you've got 5 reasons there that may be the reasons why you are struggling at this current point in time. Now, I don't want you to bare your souls on this workshop whatsoever, But just out of curiosity, if you were going to pick one that is kind of like maybe the reason that you're not seeing those consistent sales right now, which would be your number? What number would you go for? So Jeans comes straight in off the bat there with a number 3. Okay, great. Marianne's in there with a 4. Ian with a 2. Ian is another one with a 1, 3, and 5. Kelly was a 1. Zoe's a 2. Good to see you, Zoe. Brenda is a 2 as well. So we've got a big variety here, actually. And there were a number of 4s piling through. Okay, thank you very much, Tiffany. Charlie, Allison's a 1, Dan's a 1 and a 2, Fran's a 1 and a 5. Okay, so a lot of you now saying that your target market, you don't quite know how to get them to respond. Okay, so the good news is that in this session, I'm going to be taking you through and giving you content on each of those 5 points. And I'm going to be teaching you the stuff that we do day to day, and also lots of our clients do as well. And there's a number of our clients on here today. And what I am going to do, I'm going to open up the chat box to everybody. So now on the chat, you should be able to see where you can send a message to and then click, and it will say everyone. So if you want to participate and share your answers with everybody else, then please do. If you want to keep it to hosts and panelists so it just comes to me and be confidential, that's also totally fine as well. There's over 75 of you here today. So we've got a nice number to get some good feedback and some good responses through as well. Now, those 5 points I have broken down into 3 sections. Number 1 is going to be focused in on your strategy. Number 2, part 2, is going to be on the social media activity itself. And then part 3 is very much focused in on that selling activity, so that conversion work that you're looking to do. Now, like I said at the beginning, I don't spend very much time talking about myself really on these workshops because I don't feel like I need to. A lot of my journey I have shared I've been in business now for just over 5 years, and I've shared all of it online. So from my first business, which was in property, through to a couple of different agencies that I've ran, now into the consulting and the other ventures that I've got that are listed on my LinkedIn profile. Now, one of the things that I would love for you to do is to come and connect with me. So if you scan that QR code, or if you just type my name in on LinkedIn, I should come up. Come and connect with me and just send me a message with the word workshop to let me know that you've been here. For those of you that do, I do this with every single one of my presentations when I've got the time. I will pick 2 to 3 of you out of the people that send me the message workshop, and I will give you a profile review. So I'll look at your LinkedIn profile and I'll suggest things maybe where you can improve, and also areas where you're doing really, really well. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn and then send me a message on LinkedIn with the word workshop. So don't pop it in the chat box, pop it on LinkedIn, send me a message. So I've got it in there because that's where I do the prize draw. Now, as a business, we are the founders of socialselling.co.uk. So if you come to socialselling.co.uk, our website is currently in build at this current point in time, but there is stuff on there for you anyway that you can see. But the purpose of socialselling.co.uk is to really share and, should I say, test all of the advice that's out there right now. Does anyone else agree that when it comes to social media right now, there's a lot of contradictory advice out there, people telling you to do things and then someone else telling you to do the opposite? Is anyone else noticing that at this current point in time? I see it a lot, and I saw it a lot when I was learning all about this stuff when I first started in business. So in property, when I had my Airbnb company, I had to raise money. That was my job for that business. Like, that was my role that I played with my co-founder. And social media was a really good place to do it. And I spent loads of money on training and realized that where one person was telling me that I needed to post every day, another person was telling me not to. One person was telling me to run ads, the other person wasn't, telling me that I could do it organically. And I only have to scroll Facebook or Instagram now to see somebody promising me that I could make 10 million quid in 3 weeks. And I'm not here to bash anyone online whatsoever. That's not what we're about. But what we are about is taking all of these so-called tactics, testing them quite rigorously, and then sharing with people like what the results were, what's worked for us, and then what's worked for other people. Because there's one thing applying these tactics to social media businesses, so people that have agencies or people that have social media coaching business. There's one thing applying these tactics to those types. But when you then take them and you apply them like we have so we have an agency and we apply them to like accountancy practices, to financial services providers, to recruitment consultants. What works in one industry doesn't work in another. Like if for those of you that there was some of you that mentioned that you were in recruitment, you have probably one of the toughest jobs on LinkedIn where people think you have the easiest job, right? Because LinkedIn's a recruitment platform. The problem is that there are millions of other people doing the exact same thing that you are. And so if you go out there with the same tactics that everyone else is doing, it's never going to work. Whereas you switch that to being an accountant, right, as an example, there aren't as many accountants that vibrant on LinkedIn right now. There are a few that are doing it really well, but the majority of them just aren't ticking the right boxes, and therefore it might be a bit easier. Depending on your business will determine like what strategy to go out there and apply. And when it comes to this workshop today, there are some real key reasons why I've decided to run it. Over the last couple of weeks, specifically, that's a typical look at my calendar these days. Like I've spoken with over 50 different consulting-based businesses. So all the red bars in there are different businesses that I've spoken with, and all of them have told me similar stories. They're all trying. So curiosity right now. Who here is using social media to try and grow their business? Just give me a yes in the chat if you are. Give me a no if you're just a not yet, right? Lots of people are trying, but are feeling a little bit deflated at the results that they're getting. And lots of you may have noticed that, especially when it comes to content creation, your engagement will have dropped recently. If you look at things like your social selling index score, so I'm not going to teach you that today, but on LinkedIn, they do score you. You can type in LinkedIn SSI and it will give you a score. I've had lots of messages from people worrying that their SSI score has dropped and their engagement has dropped. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, surely you shouldn't rely on your content being the thing that generates you leads. And that shocked people. And so like when I run these workshops, like what I'm trying to do is educate people and help people find the right ways of doing things, because I'm just sharing what we do day to day that works. It also makes me feel extremely good when people get results. It's like if you're a coach or a consultant, you'd probably agree with me. When someone says that you've done a good job, it's one of the rewards and perks of that job. It's one of the reasons why we do it. I think coaches, consultants like thrive from feedback. And then number two is because I'm on the hunt, especially right now, for both small companies and large companies to help them with their marketing and sales strategy. I found myself with, although that diary looks very, very busy, I found myself with a little bit of time where I can really dive deep over the next 6 months to help some people. And it's one of my favorite things to do. So with all that being said, I'm now going to dive into the strategy part, because I think that is one of the best starting points. And with that, I'm going to take you through how you can identify the process that's going to get you to your objectives. So with that, I'm going to need some engagement from you, as you're already doing right now. I'm going to need a bit more of it as we're going through, because the word strategy, I'm finding now more than ever, is a word that people throw at you, throw at me, but then gets misunderstood all the time. You ask someone what their strategy is, and it will be written in a way that is totally different from 3 other people that you would ask. And it doesn't seem to matter whether you're a startup or a global brand. We've worked with businesses that tick every box you can think of. The plans that we see in place from those conversations very rarely connect with each other. A lot of the time, it's a scattergun approach. And what I've noticed with small businesses, and when I say small businesses, it's anything from complete startup up to a company that's doing 5 to 10 mil. We've found that a lot of the time they genuinely don't have much of an idea of how to guarantee consistent growth. So a lot of the time it's just do more. Let's just do more. Let's do more. Let's recruit more people. Let's do more. Let's try this. Let's try that. See what works. Double down. Keep going. And that mentality is okay up to a point, but it also is stressful and tiring. And as I mentioned before, like in the last 2 weeks, I've spoken with 50 plus different businesses. And next week, I'm going to be speaking to 18 more. And that's as a minimum, depending on whether I open up my diary further. What I'm gaining from those conversations is so much insight into what people are doing and what they feel like is going well, and also what they feel is going wrong. And what we want you to realize today is that there is a process to this. So if you want to see that like consistency, of lead generation and then sales opportunity and then revenue, there's a process that you can implement that will get you there. It's not that actually that complex when you break it down. I'm going to be sharing that with you. I'm going to be showing you it. But it does require you to take a step back and almost have a bird's eye view in your business at this current point in time. And so with that, let me ask you, it's actually two questions that I've got for you. Number one is, do you currently have a revenue target for 2025? For those of you that don't want to share this publicly, switch it back to hosts and panelists and share it with me there. This will give me a real understanding of kind of like where everybody is at right now. And I'm curious to know what it is, right? So with that revenue target, is it $5,000 a month? Is it, sorry, let's go annually. So is it 100 grand? Is it 50 grand? Is it 250? Is it a mil? Is it 2 mil? Is it 10? Whatever. Like, it gives me real insight into this. Some of you don't. So some of you are like 200, 1.5 mil, 100, 80, another 100, 710. Love how accurate that is, by the way. 150, 350, 150 to 200. Okay, so a bit of a range there as well. Okay, good. So we've got a bit of variety here, which is great. Now, the next question is the one which is going to give me a load of insight into where you're at. And again, honesty is all I ask for right here, because this is going to help me dive into the specific information that's going to help you the most. How much of your activity that you're doing on social media right now is linked to a process end to end that is going to guarantee that if you hit certain numbers at the front end, you'll hit your revenue target? Do you have that process in place right now? Yes or no? And if not, right, this is the point at which I need you to take that step back and go, right, now I need to start thinking, because the process end to end isn't that difficult. I'm going to share it with you and you can copy, like you can take it, grab it, and then start to create your own version of it. Okay. Now you've got traffic on one side. So if you're working along with me here, this process I'm going to share, but you've got traffic, you've then got how much of that traffic you control, and then you've got how much traffic you're going to convert. Right? So traffic at the front end, you've then got traffic that you need to control, and then traffic that you're going to convert. The reality is, and thank you so much for the honesty there, literally, this really helps me. I appreciate it a lot. The reality is that every business is slightly different. Like I mentioned, a recruitment business's strategy is going to be totally different to a pharmaceutical strategy, or it could be completely different to a consulting-based business's strategy. And on the right-hand side there, this was me delivering a mastermind that we run for our members, that we all get together in the UK and we go through and we talk through a number of different things. And one of the things that I focused in on back in December, these are every quarter, was the big equation that helps you define the process and the strategy to build. And that equation is, and if you want to write this down, please feel free, is your conversion activity, which I'll explain to you what that is in a second, plus your connection activity, which is quite self-explanatory. It's like traffic, it's network, it's audience, it's engagement, will equal your revenue. Right? So conversion, bearing in mind here, notice the order, conversion activity plus your connection activity equals your revenue. What I found is that people, unfortunately, from all the people that I've spoken to just in the last couple of weeks alone, focus their time on the connection activity too much. And it doesn't matter whether you want to get to 50 grand a year or whether you want to get to 12 million a year. It doesn't matter. There is always a plan and a pathway to get there. We've helped businesses get to what we were only working with Mastercard last year, and you can imagine the revenue numbers they've got. Each we're working on certain products of theirs, looking at their marketing process from traffic to email marketing all the way through to conversion planning. That strategy is totally different to a example that you're going to see very shortly of someone that is just starting out trying to work out how to make the first 100 grand. It's very, very different. And that's why there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this. The only things, though, that differ between each of these revenue targets that you're setting yourself are the effort levels required to get there, the resources that you need. So when I say resources, I mean whether it's people or money, up to you. and then the time that it's going to take. So if you want to get there quicker, you need to spend more. If you're prepared to be patient, you can spend less and you can do less. But all of those three things determine the revenue target you're going to hit. And there's no secret here. I can very easily determine, unless you've got a miracle product and offer, I can look at the effort that you're willing to put in, the resources you've got available, and the time that you're wanting it to get there. And I can take two of them and then tell you what you need in the third one to be able to get to your revenue target. There may be some examples where we can't because it's unrealistic, but we will tell you that. And like I mentioned before, this is the stuff that we speak with companies about every single day. This is like my geek topic. I absolutely love this. I was only talking to one of my team, Elise, earlier about our Facebook ad strategy that we're doing. So we look at organic and we look at paid. We also look at influencer. We also look at referral. There's loads of different ways that you can do this, but it's about building one thing first and then adding to it as you go. Now, I'm going to share with you anyway, but who would find it valuable to see like what one of these processes would look like? Like I've got one example that I'm happy to share with you, or I can skip through it if you're not that interested in it, obviously, because of time. I don't want to waste your time. But if you, yeah, okay, you do. So there's this process here. The one thing that I need you to realize, this is not here to overwhelm you, because when you look at this in its entirety, you can go, whoa, that's a lot. But when you break it down, whenever we work with people, we break it down step by step. So it doesn't seem like that much. And I need you to realize that. So the first part of the process is what we label as clarity. And this is the same with any strategy that we work. This is what we call a webinar strategy. So like what you're on now is a webinar. And there are a number of different strategies that you can run. But it all starts with, on all of the strategies, on audience, offer, and message. So who are you targeting? What are you trying to target them with? And what are you going to say to them to get their attention? That is marketing 101. It's psychology. It's understanding the language that's going to trigger people. All right, I've got a couple of different examples that I can take you through today on that. We then look at the connection activity, right? So if we look end to end at this, we may not do it in this order. So this isn't the order that we do it in, but it's the easiest way to explain it to you. Once you've got your audience, offer, and message, we then move on to, okay, we need to build an audience. So this audience here, we then need to build it. Now, with this process, you don't need to do all of this. You can just pick the middle bit, which is LinkedIn. So you've got your LinkedIn profile, you build your network up, and then you begin direct messaging. We then begin nurturing and taking that audience away from social media to a place where we have control. Notice the name of the stage, control. You do that, and this is just one process that you can automate, right? You don't even need to spend that much time doing this manually. You can automate this, but you take control by messaging. You can do it via lead magnets. You can do it via workshops. You can do it via free resources, whatever. But that then moves people to your email list. You then have an email campaign. Out of curiosity, who here has an email list? Just give me a yes or a no if you have an email list at this current point. Okay, so there is a mixture. So email marketing is still one of the most powerful pieces of your marketing engine. Now, some of you might not have one. Some of you might have one, but it might be small. Some of you might have one and it might be big, right? There's one thing having one. There's then another thing actually then proactively using it. So again, you start to build your audience online. You then have to take control of it. And Ian, if you find it hard, like don't know where to start, I've got something for you coming very, very shortly, and we can go through that together. So same with everybody. You've got control. This is then when you'll notice we're not done any selling on social right now yet. This is the point at which conversion takes place. So I don't do any selling on social at all. Social for me is about gaining attention and taking control of it. The promotion and the conversion then takes place off the platform. On a platform like Zoom, like this is a webinar campaign, right? So you've opted in, you've gone through Zoom, you've maybe anyone received some reminders for this via email to say this webinar is starting in 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour? Anyone receive those? I'm hoping you did. The turnout's been pretty strong for this, so I'm hoping you have. You have? Good. Like they're reminders, right? They're automated. I've not sent them, they're automated. I then run a presentation. And then at the end of this presentation, I offer like the chance to book in an opportunity with us, right? That's what the webinars are about. But with conversion, I spoke about here, like a webinar strategy. So number 3, but you can also do conversion conversations. So I don't know if there's anyone on here right now that runs discovery calls or sells via the phone or via Zoom calls. I don't know if you do that, but you can do that to be able to then drive people through to wanting to buy from you. It's a very good campaign that you can run. So here with conversion, you just replace webinars with conversion conversations. You could also do demos. So some of you might have software or product. You can do demos of your service. We have a software solution as part of our offering. It's email marketing and lead magnets that we include. We could give people a demo of the suite, and from that, then follow up to see if people want it. Can anyone think of a good demo-based business at the moment where they give you a free trial or experience? Anyone think of a business that does that at this current point in time? I can give you one. Whoop. This thing ended up costing me accidentally 220 quid. They sent me it, gave me a 30-day trial, completely forgot that it was coming out, and I've just been billed for it, just paid for it. Right? This is the thing. Now, if anyone wants the screenshot to this, because Barbara's just put a good point, it's quite small. Just again, drop me a message on LinkedIn with the word process, and I'll send you a copy of it over so you can see it. But we then have value add and proposal. Dan's put TV streaming services in there as well. Again, it's another example of a product that you could demo. The final part to this then is the conversion bit. So you then need to work out how you're going to close business. And this is something that we spend a lot of time talking to people about. Some people do proposals. Some people do order forms and then they buy online. Some people do, trying to think of other ways of doing it, order form, proposal. Some people send quotes, which is like a shorter form of a proposal. Some people would have to speak to people beforehand and then they'll do the deal over the phone. Some people have to meet people in person to be able to do it. You will have a closing process that you go through. With a webinar, typically, it's a sales call. So you have a call with someone and then you see if you can work with them. At the top of that, then, you then have content. And content does play a key part. But it's actually the numbers that you then break down once you've got this process in place, which when we work with people, 1 to 2 weeks, you've got this created. When you go through this and you implement, you go through the training, you implement it step by step, you then see the numbers as you go through this process, which then leads you to guaranteeing that result. The difference when you get a strategy in place that you know is going to work, and I've got a couple of examples here, is literally mind-blowing because it's easy for me to give you my examples, but I've got social media bias, remember. I'm a social media person selling social media services. So there's bias. So I don't use me. I use other people's businesses. So you've got Jess Presland here that runs a webinar campaign. Now with Jess, she does training. So 20K of training contract with several more meetings booked in the next 2 weeks. So watch this space. She did that via a webinar, right? So just followed the process. Changing my messaging really helped. The next webinar was then set up. So Jess ran a webinar campaign, okay? Piers ran a value add into demo campaign. So Piers has like an element of scorecarding and also a recruitment focus. He does assessments. And you can see here, he got a new client over Christmas, ordered 1,250 assessments from the value add messaging that he was doing. So direct messaging. And that then gave him 475 grand over the next 2 years. Having the process in place allowed him to be able to then drive that through. We then have Sarah Jones that ran conversion conversations. So Sarah literally sends messages that books in via organic outreach, organic direct messaging, 12 calls booked in, asking 10 people a day for the last 6 days. Following that through, then she has the conversation, drives them through. We then have Odile. Odile ran a webinar. Again, so we just signed up another 90-day one-to-one client, $5,000 coaching program who came from our latest webinar. Pete Elgar is a bigger business, right? So Pete is a CEO and an MD of a company. You can go and see him online. And again, he was feeling a bit frustrated because it was taking a bit of a while actually to get the process and the conversations flowing. It's a very unique business and the sales cycle is quite long. But you look at this here, would be spent, but I'm wondering if my time would be better spent elsewhere. However, order came in overnight from US office for 313,000. Like different size businesses here from startup to larger. But again, when you implement it, it starts to work. And all of these people started with a scattergun approach. From startup to bigger business, it was scattergun. And then we changed it to that strategy that was connected, which I believe is the thing that makes the biggest difference. And that's my question to you is, do you think at this current point in time, you need to do a little bit of work on your marketing and sales strategy. Just give me a yes or a no. If you don't, that's totally fine. If you do, just give me a yes in the chat. So there's quite a few of you that have come through it, sending it to it. So you can see the answers coming in, right? So there's quite a few people that need to do some work. Isabel with automation definitely is something to look at. Now, today, I'm opening up some spots in my diary to talk with you. And I'm looking for, this is completely free. You don't have to pay for this. This is a chance to come and speak with me. And on that call, I'm going to be talking through your strategy, right? So that process there, all of the people that you've just seen on that slide all started off with this call. And we're going to review what you're currently doing. So I need to work out whether actually you've got any gaps, because if you don't, like there's nothing to do and you can just carry on doing what you're doing. But most people do. And then I'm going to work through the targets you've got. So don't worry if you've not got targets, because we can work on those together. We will then list out the changes you need to make. So all of this on the call, list out the changes that you need to make to be able to get your business to that target by the end of the year. We're then going to talk through what's going to be required from a resource and effort level point of view. So I'm going to be very, very real with you. If I feel like your targets and timeline are unrealistic and you can't back it up, then I'm going to be honest with you and tell you what the realistic results should be from the numbers that you put in front of me. And then also going to give you that time frame as well. Last year, I did over 500 of these calls. So you can see my calendar on the right, so over 500 of them. But due to time at the moment, I can't do as many. So like previous workshops, I've actually been selling our group mentoring, which is a £50 a month training program. This one's a bit different. So I'm going to be talking to you about a different product towards the end of this today. And these calls are the starting point to that. So I've got a couple of days this week. So today, tomorrow, a little bit of Friday to be able to speak with you. And if you want one of those calls, I'm going to pop the link in the chat box for you to be able to book one in. And the QR code is there for you to be able to do it. So there's only a certain amount of slots in my diary to be able to do it. Please do like go through the questionnaire. I know some of you may need to quickly leave to book it in. The replay of this will be available anyway. But these calls are there once the slots are gone. If you can't find a time, drop me a message. But they are quite limited purely because I'm just giving away my time with what's there. You've seen my calendar already. It's quite busy. So that QR code you're going to see as we go into part 2. That QR code there in the top right-hand corner. Can everyone see that QR code still, or has Zoom blocked it off? Can you just give me a yes if you can see that QR code in the top right-hand corner still? Don't want to move on unless. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. So that QR code is going to be there. You don't need to, again, the slots are the slots. If you want your time, go in and book your time and get it booked in. But the QR code is going to be there for the duration of the presentation anyway. So that's part 1. Strategy calls are there for you if you want it. We're now going to move into part 2, which is the social media part of everything. And from the years that I've been doing this personally, and also my business partners as well, we've noticed one specific big thing that is holding a lot of people back. And that is that people are focusing way too much on the media part of social media. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about content today, right? But the big thing where we believe the difference is made is when you focus more on the social part. And what I mean by that is that media suggests content creation. Now, I'm not going to ask you this just yet. I'm going to ask you it in a little while. But the social part is about talking to people. It's about building relationships and getting attention. The selling part, you'll notice our business name is social selling, right? That's what we do. The selling part doesn't happen on social media. And I've explained that already today, but I wanted to emphasize it. It comes later on in the process. And what I mean by that is, so Jamie is an example on the right-hand side there. Some of you may have heard of Jamie before. But Jamie was someone that I first consulted with a couple of years ago. He's a very, very good friend of mine now. And we broke down his process. Now, this is this is an old screenshot that I took off my iPad that I was joining out. And this is where we designed his education program. And we looked at, so just so I can read this out to you, we looked at YouTube for social media, Instagram organic, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, and then we added in LinkedIn a bit later. David knows Jamie well. Amazing. We then launched this first program, which was the Elite Property Trading Academy. and we drove that traffic to the conversion vehicle, but we had to get the conversion vehicle sorted first. The way that we work this is working backwards. So we looked at his offers, moved them back. We looked at the program, moved it back. We then look at the traffic. But the majority of our time was spent here. This stuff was 10%, 15% of the time. Then it was working in the background. You create a bit of content and you move on. The actual real effort was done in, one, the direct messaging that was done, and two, the advertising that was done. Content did eventually generate leads, but the problem with most social media strategies is they're too content heavy at the front end. And content takes time. You've got to earn the right to someone's newsfeed space. You've then got to keep showing up every single day without boring someone. You've then got to put offers in front of people subtly to get them through. It's why it's not the answer at the front end if you are new to social media. Yes, content plays a part. But if I was to ask you the question, right, as you look at Jamie's results here that when we launched, right, if I was to ask you the question of what takes up the majority of your time when it comes to social media, what would your answer be? Would your answer be direct messaging? Would it be engaging on the newsfeed? Would it be content creation? Like, what would your answer be at this current point in time? Because I'm going to guess that the average is the same as what the majority of people have put there. Content creation. Tamara is different with DMs, which is I love to hear that. That's actually where I want to. I'm mostly commenting on other people's content. Now, I'm not going to ask you how much time you're spending, but from the conversations that I had just a couple of weeks ago, people are spending hours. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, but you're not leading it anywhere. So this is literally like driving to a networking event, going and sitting in the corner of a room, like shouting at people that can't hear you, and then going, oh, well, and then walking out. Like, logically, doesn't make sense to me. So this isn't to make anyone feel like an idiot, but this is just to share with you like the reality of what social media is. People are taught about media, but actually social is just a way to be able to focus in and build relationships with people. Stuart Harris is just unable to read any of your image. It's just a blur. I'm on full screen. Unless it's part of your future events, it might be better to show your images on full screen. It's a good point. I'll take that into like our feedback. No, it's definitely not the intention at all. The image is definitely meant to be seen. So I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. But what we find, like I mentioned just then, to get back into it, people are spending like way too much time at the moment creating content. Isabella is just, I personally really dislike 90% of DMs on LinkedIn and hate to be among them. I'm going to show you some examples of the feedback that I get from my direct messaging because it might change your mind and your mindset to the way that this works. Most people's content, here's the truth, is just not being seen by the right people because there's so much content going out there. It's not that content isn't important. Of course it is. But it's not the thing that's going to fill your pipeline up. Like, we want your best content to be seen by the right people. Does anyone ever, and again, conscious here, right, that it can get a bit boring engaging in these things, but this is really important. Who here gets a little bit frustrated when they spend time creating a bit of content that they think is great, but then it gets nothing but crickets when it goes out there? Anyone get a little bit frustrated at that? We do, and we did, and therefore we changed it. So our best content, rather than relying on an algorithm to share our content with the best people, which it's never going to do because that best content isn't the best engaging content, we switch it. And we put out our best content in direct messaging, driving people towards it. Also, we then promote it via our email marketing. So you build your list up and promote it via your email marketing, where you don't rely on an algorithm. You rely on beating a spam filter. And with that, you can then start to really drive that traffic into that conversion piece that we're talking about. And like I asked you at the beginning, like, you've got to think about where your traffic is going to go. And this is the first bit of conversation on that strategy call that we have. Are we going to be looking at driving people to calls? Are we going to be looking to people to get to your webinar? Do you prefer to maybe do the demo based? I mean, with where you're at this current point in time, what do you think you would focus on more? Is it getting more calls? Is it webinars? Is it demos? Just put in the word, like lead magnet to call. Okay, good. So that's more calls. Michelle's call. So a lot of calls. So most people here are looking to drive people to calls, which is great. Now, that strategy is determined then of where your time should go. And I can confirm it for you right now. It is not in content. If the majority of your time is going into your content right now, that is the point. This is the big realization right now. It needs to stop, because I'm about to take you through like the focus points for your social media strategy. But it's going to be that last box where the majority of the time needs to go, with a bit of the time on your posting. And really, when we look at this and we break it down, this algorithm is starting to change, and understanding it is really key. It works on what we call dwell time, and the more dwell time someone spends, so the more time someone spends watching your content, the more impressions it will give it. Now, reactions and comments, they do play a part, but only because it increases the amount of time someone spends on it. So if they're typing a comment, it means that they've spent more time on it, and therefore it's going to push it further. It's not that the more comments you get, the more impressions you'll get, because sometimes the comment could be yes or great post, mate. It doesn't actually take that long to do it. And that's why sometimes it's not the most engaged piece of content that gets the most impressions. And when you're creating your content strategy, you need to know this, because consistently posting isn't the thing that you need to really pay that much attention to. 3 times a week is more than enough to begin with, because when you start to realize that it's a certain type of content that's going to get you seen on these news feeds, that is where you can start to win. And that question there is a really important one. The news feed, whenever I use it, it's the same people that show up every day. And those people are the ones that I've spent the most time engaging with in the past. And no matter how hard I tried to change that, it doesn't change. Over a longer period of time, it might. However, it's the same thing with my content. I have earned the right, because I've been doing it for so long now, and I've understood what content to put out there. You can see some examples now. The content that I'm putting out there is the content that starts conversations. Because if I can get impressions like that on average, so that 30, 40, 50,000 mark, if I can keep getting that, it means that more and more people are enjoying what I'm putting out there. Now, that content could be stuff that's related to the news. If you want to write these down, it could be stuff that's related to the news. It could be stuff that's related to what's going on in my personal life. It could be stuff that's going on in my business. It could be stuff that people have just genuinely got opinions on. What I'm looking to do is trying to trigger people to comment. So whenever I write a piece of content, I think about this and I go, right, if I was reading this, am I commenting before I even finish reading? Because there are some posts, has anyone ever had that sort of thing before? There are some posts where you're commenting, you've not even finished reading it yet. I've seen a few, and there's sometimes it's about politics. Sometimes it's about some of the stuff that's going on in the news. Sometimes it's about a conspiracy theory. Sometimes it's about a story that's been happening and that could be very relatable, like a bad boss. There's sometimes where you can't help yourself but comment. That's the content you need to fill your profiles up with. Now, if you can make them relatable to what it is that you do, then even better. However, there's a skill to be able to do that. And when you get it right, just like Philippa did, you'll see the growth. So Philippa went from 7,000 followers to 7,600 in 5 days, because she got 458,000 impressions on a post that was about ADHD and recruitment, the linkage between ADHD and recruitment. She also then got 5 package proposals and over 50 messages then messaged to her, thanking her for it. We have had numerous examples here, and here is one where even with 880 followers, you can reach 133,000 people. And when you do that, you get the inbound leads that you're looking for. This is all a strategy, right? It all starts with that strategy and connecting this all together. When you understand what content to put out there, you start to earn the right in people's news feeds. When people start to realize who you are, when you send a message, they're going to respond to you, as long as it's framed in the right way. We then move on to engaging, right? So engaging, I don't spend a lot of time doing anymore. People spend hours doing this. I don't really find that much of a purpose apart from training the algorithm to show more of the stuff that I'm interested in. So the more time that I spend training it, the more accurate it's going to get. And this may sound ridiculous, right? That it learns from me, but that is what an algorithm does. It's constantly learning. And so if you want to get your ideal client's attention, bearing in mind the one thing that we want whenever we're posting stuff online is comments, right? That's the one thing that we want is comments. Go and spend time commenting on your ideal client's content because LinkedIn is then going to reward you for it. This is something that my business partner, Nick, does. So Nick is a very, very successful entrepreneur, multi-millionaire. And he is one of my best mates. He's my best man at my wedding, actually. So he is my best mate, I guess. If he's watching this, he'll probably crucify me for saying that, but oh well. However, spends lots of time helping other businesses with their business growth strategies. And even he is engaging on the newsfeed. And engagement is something that I will recommend that you do 5 to 10 minutes a day maximum, right? Just go and spend some time engaging with your ideal clients so they start to see your name. We then move into building your network. So you can send 100 network invitations every single week. You want to be aiming for a 50% acceptance rate as a minimum. I use a bit of automation software to do this, so I don't do it myself anymore, and I get that 50% acceptance rate. Most people think that direct messaging is a bit dirty, like they don't like it. Has anyone got a bit of a dislike to direct messages on LinkedIn? Be very, very honest with me. I don't mind. Give me a yes or no. Bit like distasteful with direct messaging. I know a few of you did. Now, with my direct messaging, you can see on the right-hand side here, this is what we call a value-add message, where I'm putting out there, I'm like, look, I just thought I'd send a message over to say hello with no expectation of any response, as I know your inbox is most likely rammed with people sending pointless sales messages. So I'll get straight to the point. We try to add as much value as possible to anyone we connect with, and with that in mind, below are 3 links I thought would be helpful if social media and digital marketing is something you use for business. One is a guide, one is 100 content ideas, and the third is 60-minute digital marketing masterclass. Now, let's take the 100 content ideas, right? Out of interest, if I dropped you a message saying, I've got a guide here with 100 contents, like ideas in it, who would actually be interested in that? Just put a yes if you would respond to the 100 content ideas. You go, actually, yeah, I'd happily have a copy of that. Here's the point, right? You can see a few people are already putting yeses in there. When you do that and you have something of value, people will have a positive response. And so if I was to put that out there in a post, I'd probably get 10,000 impressions, like with a lead magnet post. But direct messaging, I can automate my direct messaging, and every single day it then builds my email list. With the right approach, you can do it. And on my account, I have 3 messaging approaches, and they're all automated. 1 is lead magnets to build my list. 2 is the webinar invitations. And then 3 is that conversion call booking. So I look to book conversion conversations to book calls in. And I've got a couple of examples of that are coming through. But the responses that I get are basically people just thanking me. And with that, then they end up joining the email list. They end up then maybe coming to a workshop or booking a call in. Adam has asked, how do I automate messages? So I use a bit of software called Meet Alfred. I've tested all of them. You've got to be careful with automation because it does go against LinkedIn terms of service. And I've got to be careful saying that I use this stuff. I get it. However, I use them to save time and I've tested them all. And this one has had 0 effect on my account at all. Now, LinkedIn, when you start to use it and you start to see the growth, you can see the impressions when you post the right content, right? The profile views spike and then bang, you can see here, Matt ended up getting 18 new customers through LinkedIn. That then ended up being like £1 million in sales that he got. It was insane. But sales is the key word here. The biggest issue that so many have with platforms like LinkedIn, and this is an awareness piece that you need to take note of. They're either reactive, right? So they're active on the platform, but then sit back and wait for business to come to them. And unfortunately, you just don't get enough, or it just never happens. Or 2, you're proactive. But like I said, number 1 on those reasons that people are struggling back at the beginning is that you can't get conversations started. And so this self-awareness right now, if you're struggling with it, then you need to understand the mindset of the users that you're trying to contact on this platform, because most people don't realize that the reasons why people are on social media is because either they're bored, right? Or they're trying to sell something themselves. So they're not actually on there to buy anything. So when you're trying to push what it is that you're doing, or even worse, not promoting anything at all, you fall on deaf ears. And therefore, social media feels like that waste of time. The moment I realized that building that marketing and sales process made everything easier was the moment that I doubled down on it. And so I utilize my social media profiles now. It's the same way that I believe you should, is to showcase what we do, share my views on the world, and use my direct messaging to drive people into our services. And these questions are something that you should all ask yourselves, right? So one I ask all of our customers, all of our members. Number one is, how often are you talking to people that you believe are your dream customers? Once a week, 5 times a week, 10 times a week? You've seen my diary and how often I'm talking to people. How often are you? How many calls then do you need with those types of people to be able to hit your target every single month? Right? How many do you need? Are you then proactively, have you then got your actions list working to hit that goal every single day, or are you just waiting for things to happen? Some people feel uncomfortable with our approach, right? But we need to start treating social as a place to contact our dream customers, a place to initiate relationships. And you can see here the calls, the responses that we get. Apologies for the delay in replying. I'd be up for jumping on a call. Sorry, I was off for Xmas period. Yeah, why not? Do you want to book a meeting here? 12:14 p.m. Please do not hesitate to book a call directly from my LinkedIn page if this works for you. Then send me the questions you have in mind. Happy New Year. Thank you for reaching out. Appreciate your kind words. I'd love to help, but unfortunately, this month is shaping up to be incredibly busy. Even the rejection messages are nice. And on that strategy call that I mentioned before, this is exactly what we'll break down. And I don't know how many calls we have left right now, but this is like another chance for you to get one booked in right now, because on that call, we're going to go through your offer, your targets. We're then going to look at your target market, then the conversion campaign to hit those targets. We're then going to go through automation. Now, there's a lot to get through in 30 minutes, but it's also a chance to ask me any questions that you've got. And there's nothing that we cannot go through in that 30 minutes as long as it's business related. I will also talk you through how you can then work with us, where we help you do all of this step by step, right? And so if you do wish to work with us, and this is on a one-to-one basis, right? So this isn't in a group, this is one-to-one. You also have access to a group, but it's one-to-one support where we work together for 6 months. Those 6 months initially, and then it's a monthly rolling contract. When you join, we have a 45-minute proper, this will be after that 30-minute call, but a proper 45-minute strategy and objective section where we draw out your process map and then pin down the metrics that we're going to hit to be able to get there. We're then going to look at taking you through our step-by-step training program, which basically leads you through this process, teaching you button click by button click what you need to do. We will then speak. So it'll either be me, or if it's a different part of the process, which I can't help you with, I've got a number of people, like there's 2 people that support me. So Elise and Nick. So business strategy is Nick. Elise is very much LinkedIn. I am like conversion strategy. But you will speak to the one of us. Initially, it'll be quite a lot of me at the front end. Every 2 weeks for 30 minutes to review your progress, to talk through how that strategy is going, and then work on any changes required to improve results. You will then send all of the work that you do to us to review. We will then provide feedback on it for you to then make the changes. The social selling partnership program then goes into group mentoring sessions as well. So you get access to 260 other members. Mondays at 12 p.m., Thursdays at 2 p.m., we get together as a group. We then give you the templates, the scripts, and the structures to speed up the creation of that process. And then once you start seeing the wins that you want, because you will see quick wins, but we then have to review the process to make sure we hit the target and identify areas that we need to improve upon. At halfway through that 6 months, so at the end of 3 months, we then have another 45-minute session where we then develop your next strategy to enable that continuous progression. And the partnership, to join that partnership program, is £500 plus VAT per month for the 6 months. Once it's up, you can either keep progressing with us or you can graduate out. Now, every quarter, we also meet in person for a mastermind day. So this is in the UK. It's included as part of your partnership with us. And with the partnership program, it's not something that you get a link just to join, because we need to agree, well, you need to agree if we're the right fit for you. We need to agree if you're the right fit for us. And because we spend lots of time talking, strategizing and implementing, it's kind of best that we get on first. And if you have any questions around it, then you can ask me on that 30-minute call that we've got coming up anyway. So I appreciate that this isn't for everyone. I appreciate that we've got 2 minutes to go. So don't feel any pressure in joining this if it's not right for you. Totally understand it. But our program sees wins like every single day. And I'm not going to read these out to you because it's pointless. But if you fancy pausing on the replay and having a look at them, you can. But every single day for the last number of years that we've been doing this, we've had results come in. And with it, you can just check out my LinkedIn profile. There's loads of results on there as well. So I hope that's been helpful today. Again, if you have any other questions at all, just let me know. I'm going to go into the Q&A section now, conscious of time anyway. So a few of you have had to go, which is fine. But has that been helpful? You're going to get a thumbs up or a yes, or has that been giving you some insight into some things that you can do? Amazing, good, happy days. That's good to hear. Now the Q&A. We've got some from, how is your suite different from Kajabi? Well, Kajabi is a much more advanced platform than what we do. Ours is about simplicity. Kajabi is quite a complex platform. The LinkedIn algorithm from Ian is constantly changing, I believe. Do you have any top tips for company pages in terms of increasing in followers and engagement? So company pages, I would treat a bit like your website, Ian. So if you like a blog, like on a website, you update it every week. Company pages don't typically get that much engagement unless you are like a Monzo who does it brilliantly. So Monzo's a great one to go and look at. It's like got a bit of a comedy edge to it. But I wouldn't dwell too much on company page. I would look at utilizing the personal profiles in your business to drive more business, and then your company page just to showcase what the business is up to, and your followers will grow as your business grows. So lots of requests sent, but what is the best way to add connections in LinkedIn? So the best way is, one, to get your target market identified. So get really clear on the job description, but also then make sure that they are active, because lots of people are connecting with people that aren't active on this platform. So go and check their profile out. Make sure that they've been active in the last 7 days, and you will see that acceptance rate go up. Very much hope so. Big learning curve. So it has been helpful for everyone. Amazing stuff. So I've got 3 more questions come in. That I've already answered anyway, so that's fine. Great to be able to listen. Cool. So thank you very much for your time and attention today. I appreciate it a lot. For those of you that have got your calls booked in, I look forward to speaking to you. I'll be doing the prize draw over the next couple of days once I've had time to catch up for the profile review as well. You feel free to ask me anything about your profile on the calls that we've got anyway. That is everything, I believe. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Have an amazing day, evening, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you all very soon. Thank you very much and goodbye.